Welcome to the summit. Life is love, love is life. And I can introduce you to Caroline Myss. Welcome, Caroline.
Well, thank you for having me. Nice to be with you, Susan.
Thank you. And I'm very excited to have you here. I know you have a busy schedule, so and thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure.
And yeah. And it's about love, life, and grace, prayers, and so the summit is about life and love. And you speaking here is perfect because you're about that. Your latest book that I have right here, Intimate Conversations with the Divine, prayer, guidance.
Trying to show it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it's 100 prayers of your own, and then you have the prayers there, and people can pray themselves, and so it's kind of encouraging that. And I also have read some of your other books, Defy Gravity, and we also here have the Entering the Castle, and it's based on the interior castle of Teresa Avila. So all these books about grace and prayers and kind of connecting to the divine self, but you're also a medical intuitive, and you've been traveling around helping people, like teaching them how to heal themselves, basically. And that is absolutely beautiful. And all of these courses you've done all around the world, workshops and speaking, and you found that most of the healing would happen if they kind of discovered their own grace or their own whole self, the divine self. And that's maybe why you're in the later years focusing a lot on that, because that's where things really can happen. So my first question is, what is this divinity, this grace, and how does that relate to love and life?
Start small. Okay, wait a minute. We have to take this apart. First of all, my life's work kind of evolved into the more mystical end of working in healing, because I kept wondering why people don't heal, and what was the source, not so much of illness anymore, but of suffering. And what was the source of why people found breaking the cycle of suffering so difficult. And I saw that, I observed that the questions people were pursuing in themselves were much more akin to spiritual questions than to life-driven questions. When you ask a question like, what's the meaning and purpose of my life? What am I doing here? Who am I? Who do you think is going to answer that question? Who is qualified as a human being to answer the question, for what reason were you given life? Who's qualified to answer that? That's not a question, that's a prayer. And you're not in a monastery, you're just someone who has a job, but here you're asking cosmic sized questions, cosmic prayers, and you're not even aware of that. You have just ruptured your soul. You have just asked to have your life shift to a mystical course, and you don't even realize it. You're going about your life as if you're an ordinary mortal, but in fact, you've just opened the floodgates of grace. And when you request, what's the meaning of my life? You might think from your ordinary senses are looking for your ordinary life to reorder itself so you have glamour and love and security. But that's will never give you meaning. That will give you security, or so you think, because that's the fearful side of you. But it will never get you out of your fears, because you'll never have enough security, and you'll never be able to control another person enough. But your soul knows, when you finally empower yourself, the idea of controlling another person will never be your goal.
Yeah.
When you ask about meaning and purpose, it becomes the empowerment of yourself in a very real way. So what I realized was that people were having spiritual crises and they didn't even know it. And they were tumbling into depression that they treated clinically, when in fact what they needed was a spiritual director. Not religion, but spirit, but really understand they were in a spiritual crisis. And because our values have crumbled, and people think nothing of lying, they think nothing of acts of self-betrayal, they think nothing of distortions of deception, they didn't realize that they were in fact violating themselves at such deep levels while pursuing self-esteem, not getting that self-esteem is actually the capacity to become empowered enough to actually deal with truth, not with other people. Self-esteem is not about your capacity to say, don't you talk to me that way. Self-esteem is about being able to manage truth and faith and trust. And so what I've observed is that the majority of people are living full-time in faith crises. They don't have faith in themselves at all. They don't have any sense that if they say to themselves, you're going to stop drinking, you're going to do this, you're going to walk a mile, you're going to start walking tomorrow, you're going to do this, they know for a fact they're not going to. They don't even have faith in their own word to themselves. They don't even trust that. And if you don't have faith and trust in yourself, how in the world can you ever trust the word of another person? Much less can you begin to trust that there's a non-physical holy being force that is governing your life. So we're living in the midst of a pandemic of faith crisis. We're living in a pandemic of values, a total spiritual epidemic crisis. And there we are. So that's how I ended up here.
Yeah. And so with grace, or like we don't have, we're not connected to, you could say, our whole self or our energy self or spirit, soul self, kind of.
We're not connected to the fundamental elements of, start with faith. Start with faith in yourself. Start with, don't make it a big, great, big, huge. Start with the small. People can tell me with absolute clarity what they do not believe, what they don't have faith in, but they can't tell me a thing that they have faith in, that they do believe. They're like free floating in the universe, living on a walkabout, but with absolute no certainty that I have faith in this. When they think about grace, they think it's a substance that's going to make their life better, just like this. They don't get that grace is a mystical substance. Mm-hmm. They don't get that the mystical realm is not like the reasoning realm, that the mystical realm operates exactly opposite our reasoning forces, which is what a miracle is. A miracle is that which reason cannot explain, and that's what it will always be. So stop asking for explanations for a miracle. Stop it. It's supposed to be that which you cannot explain.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have a master in theology, and you also study a lot of mysticism and spirituality. And so that whole field, you've been bathed in that, you could say. And so from your own experience, you saw that it goes beyond the mind. The mind cannot understand. It's behind reason, beyond logic.
Do you want to know something? Nothing I studied is what I base anything on. Nothing. Everything I really believe and have learned has come from my work as a medical intuitive. I did not know we had a chakra system. I knew nothing about the human energy system. All those years of doing readings taught me about how powerful our thoughts are, how powerful our emotions are, how we do in fact influence our bio-spiritual ecological system that we call our body. And if we do have that kind of influence, what's the source of that? What's the source of that? And if we do have that, how every thought we have, every response we have is in fact somehow known. I learned the bio-spiritual ecological theology I now maintain, not from my studies from years ago, but from the human beings that have taught me so much that I bow my head when I think of the power of the human spirit, that I now realize we are so empowered that I get why mystics finally reached the point where they said to God, I surrender my soul to you. What do you want me to do? Not because they were so weak, like in alcoholism, but because they got how powerful they were and they didn't want to screw it up. So they said, oh no, I'm giving this back to you. You tell me what you want me to do with this profound gift of life, and I'll listen to you. They made the transition from the love of power to the power of love. They made that transition. They got it. And the struggle now, if I were to write my book on health, it would be the struggle with the love of power and its many manifestations, the need to control others, the fear of being generous, the fear of complimenting, the terror that someone might get a job opportunity other than you, while pursuing becoming conscious. What are you becoming conscious of? If not, what about an opening up intuitively? If not, doing a reading and realizing that person's better for this than me, and a rising tide lifts all ships, and if I help them, I'm helping me. And that love is the greatest thing I could channel, but we're terrified of it. We have to go to therapy to learn how to love, but we never do to learn how to hate. That comes naturally, and that's our problem.
Yeah, and it's interesting how you also say it's throughout your life. It's not so much what you were taught, but it's your life experiences that has revealed this for you, and also love, that love that we already are, but it seems like we don't really know it. And I know in your books you talk about surrendering. It's like surrendering to something that's beyond
Reason.
Yeah. So it's a lot about maybe surrendering into this love that we already are, that we seem to overlook, or
yeah, but it's important, really to actually microchip what that love looks like, because love's a great big huge word, and it really comes down to what does that look like in your own life in every single tiny way. And it means that you have to look at, is this the kindest word I can use in this sentence with this person? What's the kindest word I can use? What's the most generous way I can treat this person? And to become very mindful of when you're not generous and holding yourself accountable. Becoming mindful when you're jealous and saying, I'm gonna have a talk with myself tonight. What is that about? And deciding, for example, I'm not going to blame others for why things happen in my life. I'm going to take the word blame and take the word deserve and take the word entitled out of my vocabulary. Those three words get you in trouble. They get you in trouble all the time. You're not entitled to anything. What are you entitled to? What?
Yeah. And it's almost like the person we think we are, and it's very much based on what we were taught in our life, and we kind of cut off the whole self, the spirit part, the one that actually gives birth to this person, this physical body. How can we connect with the divine self, or the grace?
This is how you do it. It's hard work. You do it by tough choices that actually hurt. That's how you do it. You do it by tough choices that actually require prayer to get through them. Like, God, give me patience because I'm about to lose it. Because in those moments you realize, I am trying to live love here. And I'm realizing I'm not loving. And I want to up my bar. And in order for me to get there, I need some grace. And this is where grace comes in. Because I'm not as patient as I thought. And I'm not going to blame them for where I am impatient. So help me out here. That's how you do it. And that's where prayer comes in.
Yeah. So this, you could say you're asking, and you're not getting an answer like you would from a person, but you're getting an answer somehow.
You have to live the answer. You have to incarnate it. You stop making God this theoretical rescue force that's going to make your world better. Heaven will not do anything for you that you can do for yourself. You're the one in the field. You're the one. You're the one saying, I'm in the middle of this problem. Help me out. But I have to deal with this problem. It's not going to go away, and you're not going to change those people. I have to change me. And that's why you put me here. So help me out. Give me some grace to see this the way I need to see it so I can navigate this. What are the highest choices? I know better. I know what a high choice is. I know what a loving choice is. I'm facing the fact that I don't want to make it.
Yeah. Right.
That's how you get to know God and yourself. It's not about changing anybody else or praying for some off-planet God to come in and change your world. You change your world by changing yourself. And through that, you discover, my God, I have a lot of power when we're a team. When we're a team.
Yeah. And it also sounds like you open your heart. It's like a heart opening. So you can be a team, right? And you can act it out in life. And life kind of guides you in what you need to open your heart more and more. It's like life, what happens to you in your life is guiding you somehow. It's like a gift that you can, even though it may not look like a gift, but somehow it's
right. But you decide, if you've put me here, there's a way with it and through it. And it's because I'm supposed, and you stop telling yourself, this is a mistake, this is bad, this is this. No, everything is, okay, I got to figure out why I'm here. And how did I make a stupid choice? Did I make a choice out of anger? First, you have to reflect on your participation and how you got where you got. You always have to acknowledge your own co-creative capacity. You know, what was the role of your temper? What was the role of your choices? What was the role of your negativity? What was the role of, of your procrastination, of not doing things as well as you should have? or as accurately as you should have. You always have to examine how did I get here? Well, I dropped the ball. I didn't do this on time. I didn't do this well enough. I could have done this better. I should have called this person. That's how I ended up here.
Hmm.
And now I got to work my way through it.
And it sounds like a lot of honesty. Like if we're really honest with ourselves, we know a lot of, we actually,
Bingo.
yeah, and being authentic, right? Like,
Well, what do you think consciousness is? Becoming conscious of the choices we've made and the consequences that those choices created. And that's where we think, look at that. For every choice, there is a consequence. That's how the law works. There is no off-planet God punishing us for anything. The laws are set up. For every choice I make, there's a consequence.
yeah,
So God, help me make choices that you guide me so I listen to your guidance instead of responding in life with fear.
mm-hmm.
Talk to me. What's the courageous choice here? What's the courageous choice?
Yeah. And so, because with life, things happens and we're like, whoa, where did that come from? And maybe it's a previous life. We don't really know, right? But it's like, I know you talk a lot about archetypes, you know, in your book, Sacred Contracts. And it's almost like we are born into a life and we already have certain
Patterns.
Yeah, and like
Patterns and contracts and obligations. Yes.
yeah, so it's like a lot of things. Oh, I have no idea where it's from, but apparently it's happening. It's in my life. I'm gonna deal with it the best I can, right?
Right. There's certain things that, you know, we don't live alone in this life. We're interconnected. And people are interconnected to us. And they may not want to be, but they are. We never think about that. But they may not want their paths to cross with ours, but they do. And we never think about that. We only think about our own path. But you forget how many people don't want anything to do with you, but their paths cross with you. And where prayer comes in is like, however it is, my life is blending together. May grace go before me. May grace go before me. May grace go before me. Let me do everything as best as I can. I don't know what's coming. I don't know what's being created, but let grace be blended into this and all things that are yet to come and all things that have happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also, it's kind of a surrender there, right? Where, okay, I'm letting go of control and I just,
What do you control? Maybe the pretty sweater you put on today, you could pick that out. But aside from that, we have very little control over anything. Our choices are micro. Are really micro. We can't control much at all as soon as we leave the house, and even what's in the house. I mean, we have very little control. It's an illusion. It's an absolute illusion. And, you know, I think what we can do is when we get up in the morning and say, I am blessed to have another day of life. How shall I live this? What can I give to make the world better? And help me not to do any harm. Now let's get busy.
mm,
And you stay aligned to, don't want what is not yours. Stay in your lane. Stay on your path. You know, I don't focus on being something you're not, or craving what you think you should have had, could have had, would have had. Stop it. You look at your life every day and think, this is what are my tasks today? How best shall I do them? And what else do you want me to do? And talk to me if you have anything to say. If I don't hear from you, I assume I'm doing fine.
yeah. Yeah. And that's because life is beautiful in so many ways, and it's also, it can be the opposites, definitely, but it just seems like living day by day, like you say, like being in the present moment, and whatever comes your way, you meet that.
Right. And you say, get me through this. Get me through this. Get me through this. Tell me what to do now. And don't, by the way, don't miss the fact that I'm getting nervous here. And I'm a little bit scared. So, and so help me out here. I'm not feeling on top of my game. So it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's where prayer for me comes in, because I pray just like that. Like, are you missing the fact that I'm getting nervous, or what? I could use some grace, you know?
Yeah. And it also sounds very humble. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. Help me, you know? Like,
How could you not be humble? What is it we do know? We are a little grain of sand on a great big huge planet that's filled with nothing but water and oceans. And we act as if the ocean owes us an explanation for why it is the way it is. The greatest mantra you can have is humble up. Humble up. You don't know why things happen as they do. You never will. You have no idea. All you know for sure is if you look back in your life and you listed all your regrets, you're responsible for all of them. And if you look back and you think of all the wonderful things that have happened, you're responsible for none of them. They've all just happened. All the best things that have ever happened to you have come out of nowhere. And all the things you regret have your fingerprints on, which tell you, when I operate out of fear, I screw it up every time, which tells me I don't have any faith in anything. Certainly not you. So when I get frightened, anesthetize me, do something, put me to sleep, but don't let me make any choices, because I screw it up every time. Don't let me think about people, because I think the worst thoughts. Don't let me come to any conclusions, because they're never right. That's how you pray.
Yeah. 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 And it sounds very open-hearted and open-minded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, never make any conclusions, really, because what do we know, really?
And you remind yourself, every time I've judged somebody, I've regretted it. And I always learn that I'm wrong. And I wouldn't appreciate them judging me. And so again and again, when you get to your most frightened self, you say, I've got to humble up here, because I really, I'm getting too big for my britches.
Yeah.
I'll just let my life take its turn.
And it's interesting also because in my life, I've often been confused. I still am confused, and about what is it all about, and why
What's
is
that about?
where I'm from, or who am I, and all this stuff, all these questions. But there is one thing I know, and that's love. There's something in me I feel is just warm and nice, and it's always there, and it's peaceful, and it's vibrant, it's alive, and it's like, I have that's like my stable ground, basically.
Yep. And to me, I learn again and again and again and again. Life is about making the courageous choices that benefit others, that rise to the highest occasion, that really serve the whole. What is in one is in the whole. And that what we call love is actually is actually the vibration of God. It's actually the God force. How we touch God, which is why I think that we're so afraid of love, because it's so powerful. And we use it so judiciously. I'll love you if. I'm not sure you deserve this love. It's our real, it's because it's life currency. And that's what we're really selfish about. And that's why without love, we start disintegrating into barbarians, because it is the life force. And that's why I think the great transition for mystics was their call to cross that Rubicon from just dealing with what I would call love as lead to holy love, the power of love, impersonal, holy, sacred love, where God partnered with them and love just flowed through them. And it wasn't just them, which is why they could heal, they could bilocate, they could do things that ordinary mortals couldn't, because they were now at cosmic speed. And they baffled these ordinary people, but they were at cosmic speed, and they were now dealing with illumination inside of them, and their physical bodies became the transport system for holiness. And that crossing the Rubicon, you really have to take hold and work through the shadow side of that ego that says, what's in it for me, but what's the meaning, and what can I do, and da-da-da-da, and all that nonsense, that you have to get that out of you. You have to get that. What are you asking that for? You'll never know the meaning of life, so throw that question out and get about the business of love and service, and that's it. That's it. And knowing that your soul is this forcefully wondrous, creative being. And that when you find yourself up against an obstacle that you do not love, you pull back and you bow your head and said, all right, what do we got here? What have I got here? Like in Teresa's mansion. Am I afraid of being humiliated? Is that why I've shut down love? Am I afraid of being rejected and humiliated? Because that's what I'm just noticing. And I've got to deal with that. And how much humiliation controls me, because if that person controls me, I'm afraid to listen to guidance, because I'm afraid you will give me some kind of guidance down here that will humiliate me. And so at the end of the day, what this person is showing me is that I'm damn afraid of you, God, because you might humble me up and humiliate me and tell me to do something on the earth that I don't want to do.
Yeah, so it's about getting the ego out of the way and selfless service, like replace the ego with selfless service, selfless.
Not replace it, manage it. Get a grip on it, shape it, get it into shape.
Yeah, like live it, be it, embody it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's absolutely beautiful, and I know you. So all your books, and you also have so many different courses, and from your educational institute, CMED, as well.
Yes.
So
Can
how can
go to
people,
my class on myss.com, myss.com, and I'm pleased to say I'm now going to be doing live workshops again, and I'm just thrilled. I'm just thrilled.
Yeah. Yeah, that is thrilling. That's wonderful. I also like actual 3 dimensions rather than virtual.
I miss teaching in a classroom so much. Oh, I was born to teach, so.
Yeah, yeah. And so can you mention your website again? I just want to make sure.
myss.com, my last name.com. And my workshops are, I'm doing one in Santa Fe, New Mexico in November, and I'll be doing one in Sedona in the end of January or beginning of February. I'm not quite sure, sometime in that, and at a place called Enchantment. So it's feeling so good to be out with human beings again. I get my hands on people.
Yeah.
Yum.
And until then, people can also buy courses online or join, or yeah.
Yes, I'm doing a class right now, in fact, on Teresa of Avalon, Mary Magdalene.
Mm.
And I'm just really enjoying this. Just enjoying. I really do love teaching.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're very, very good at it. So yeah, keep teaching and writing too. Keep
Thank
writing
you.
books.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you keep interviewing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I like
Thank you, darling.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Caroline. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. See you in Denmark.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, maybe. Thank you.
Bye-bye, darling. Thank you.
Bye.